Rome awakens before the sun has even risen. The city never truly fell silent during the darkness of night. Because Rome has a surprising law. Carts are forbidden from entering the city during the day. All cargo transport, all shipping, is done at night. Hundreds of thousands of people try to sleep amidst the noise of horse carts, vendors' shouts, and construction sounds. At dawn, people pour into the streets, from the multi-story apartment buildings, the insulae. 90% of Rome's population lives in these buildings. Fires are constant. Collapses are frequent. Those living on the upper floors are the poorest. The stairs are exhausting, and escaping when a fire breaks out is nearly impossible. Here's the striking truth. In the shadow of Rome's magnificent forums and glorious temples, hundreds of thousands of people live in dark, cold, and dangerous rooms. The first task of the morning is attending to toilet needs, but most people don't have toilets in their homes. The public goes to public toilets, Latrines. This place is very different from our modern understanding. Marble benches where 20 to 30 people sit side by side with no privacy whatsoever. There's a water channel flowing beneath them, but the smell is unbearable. People use something called a tersorium, a stick with a sponge on the end. And this stick is shared communally by everyone. Of course, the situation is different for the wealthy. In their villas, they have private baths and private toilets. But for the ordinary citizen, hygiene is like a nightmare compared to today's standards. In Rome, everyone begins working at dawn. Shops open, craftsmen get to work, markets come alive. Bakers have been firing their ovens since the night before. 200 tons of bread are consumed daily in Rome. Panem et circenses, bread and circus games, is the formula for keeping the people calm. The state distributes free bread to 250,000 people daily. Craftsmen open shops in the narrow streets. Blacksmiths, weavers, potters, cobblers. But here, there's no concept of working hours. If there's daylight, work is done. When evening comes, work stops because there's no electricity. Here's an interesting detail. The streets in Rome are incredibly noisy. The sounds of blacksmiths' hammers, vendors' shouts, beggars' cries, animal sounds. The Roman poet Martial complains so much about the city's noise that he constantly mentions it in his poems. Sleeping in Rome is impossible. Midday arrives and the city slows down. Working in Mediterranean heat is difficult. People flock to Thermopolia, ancient Rome's fast food restaurants. Most Roman citizens don't have kitchens in their homes. Cooking in apartments is forbidden due to fire risk. That's why people eat outside. In Thermopolia, large clay jars are embedded in the counter. Inside them are hot meals, lentil soup, beans, garum, fish sauce, wine. The Thermopolium remains found in Pompeii give us surprising information. On the walls are obscene pictures, crude jokes, graffiti. Writings like Restituta is a beautiful woman, but she's a prostitute. Graffiti culture in Rome's streets is no different from today. In the afternoon, Rome's most important social activity begins, the baths. Thermae are not just places for washing. They are social centers, gyms, libraries, and entertainment venues. And here's the amazing truth. The baths are almost free. Because emperors want to keep the people happy. In the baths, there's an order. First the changing room, then the cold water pool, the warm room, and finally, the hot room. People stay here for hours. They chat, get massages, are oiled, clean their bodies with metal scrapers called strigils. In Rome, there's a surprisingly relaxed approach to nudity. In the late afternoon, people go to the Forum. The Forum is not just a political center. It's everything. Shopping mall, courthouse, meeting point, gossip spot. Here, lawyers seek clients, merchants bargain, beggars ask for alms, prostitutes wait for customers. Yes, prostitution is legal and taxed in Rome. Another interesting scene in the Forum, the clientele system. Wealthy Romans receive their dependent poor citizens every morning. In return, they expect loyalty and support, providing them with small amounts of money, food, or protection. This is actually a feudal relationship. Rome is a city of patronage, not democracy. The evening meal, Cena, is the most important meal of the day. The wealthy throw lavish feasts, 7 different dishes, wine, dancers, musicians. Guests recline in a semi-recumbent position on couches called triclinium. But the situation is different for ordinary citizens. They eat simple meals, bread, olives, cheese, onions, a little wine. In a world where meat is a luxury, most people can't eat meat even once a week. Interesting tradition, vomiting to make room during dinner is a common practice in Rome. The wealthy go to vomitoria, empty their stomachs, and continue eating. When the sun sets, Rome completely changes. There are no street lamps. The city is plunged into pitch darkness. Leaving home is dangerous. Thieves, bandits, drunkards roam the streets. Here's the horrible truth. Romans throw their garbage out the window at night. Yes, toilet waste and everything else is dumped into the street. Cleaning workers come in the morning, but at night, the streets are full of filth. If the wealthy go out, they go with torch-bearing slaves and guards. Ordinary citizens, however, lock themselves in their homes and wait for morning. But the city is not silent. Remember, nighttime transport begins. Horse carts, shouts, construction sounds. Rome never sleeps. At midnight, the Vigiles patrol. These are slaves who serve as firefighters and police. They extinguish fires and catch criminals. Because fire is Rome's greatest fear. The Great Fire of 64 AD reduced 2/3 of the city to ash. In the insulae, people sleep in darkness. A bed is a luxury item. Most people sleep on the ground, on mats, with a thin blanket. In winter, the cold is unbearable. In summer, the heat. Vermin are everywhere. Fleas, bedbugs, rats. The capital of the Roman Empire, perhaps the largest city in the world. But life is not easy for the ordinary citizen. This is 24 hours in ancient Rome. Behind the magnificent monuments and splendid forums, millions of people live in difficult conditions. There's no toilet paper, no trace of privacy. Hygiene is far below modern standards. But Rome still functions. Every day, 200 tons of bread are produced. Water is supplied to 1 million people. Baths open. Markets are set up. There's order within this chaos, civilization within this filth. Rome's legacy is not just architecture, it's human nature itself. Ambition, survival, community, inequality. All of these were lived in those narrow streets, those noisy Thermopolia, those crowded baths. And perhaps the most striking lesson is this: civilization does not mean the same thing for everyone. For a senator, Rome is paradise, while an insular resident is just trying to survive.